you all will have to, somebody will have to, be the target.
Yeah. Now we'll use Mary Zell as bait.
Okay, sounds good.
I mean, I know you're supposed to put garlic around someone to prevent the vampires from getting them, but there's got to be the opposite, and attracted for ghosts or something. So we'll figure out what that is in the meantime.
Exactly. That sounds like a research project.
Okay.
It's so funny because I literally just had the same conversation last night.
Really?
Well, there's a bunch of us talking, and we'd watched this show, and this guy that was supposedly a vampire, had said all these things were myths, the garlic, the mirror thing. He was like, we made all these myths up. So that way, if we're ever standing in front of a mirror and you see us, we're not the vampire, even though we really are.
Yeah.
It was all these things. He was like garlic, just an annoyance when you get garlic thrown on you. He was naming off all this. It was really funny. It's like,
it's the holy water that really gets them.
No, he was just like, no, he talked about the holy water. He's like, no, it cleans us just like everything else.
Right.
Zach, are we live?
Oh.
Yep, we're live.
That's what natural historians.
That's right.
Hey, Nathan.
Morning, Nathan.
Morning, everyone. How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
All right. Are we ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm glad I got to see everybody and do this here again. I know some of y'all probably be like, we could do this in a different location or whatever, and I'm willing to drive wherever. It just makes it easy for me, and I appreciate it. So thank y'all very much. So we'll just go ahead and start. So status of our budget and upcoming priorities. Jonathan?
Sure. So far, first quarter, everything's looking in line with expectations. So everything's going really well. One thing to point out is we haven't received our central accounts distribution yet from the state. So that handles the 5% raises that we got in July, and then also the 2% upcoming in December, along with that bonus. The good thing about that is, though, they don't need to transfer that until roughly the last month of the year. So, good thing about getting all your money up front is that you can fund yourself, and then you can be patient. You can be patient and wait on that additional account distribution later in the future.
What's the date for the bonus? No, I'm just gonna
For Christmas.
Yeah, I could.
December 10th is the raise. Yeah, that's the one that. Yeah, so that was new this short session. So they did pass some legislation just to use the 2% in December.
And we've been through the central accounts distribution process before,
yeah. So every year.
Yeah, it's not anything we're not used to.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, everything looks in line.
All right. Recent and pending support. We'll go Ryan.
All right, thanks, Gordon. So yeah, you've got the advancement report. Lots of charts. They all look like they're going in the right direction. But I do want to highlight a few sort of big picture things. So we're continuing to implement several grants. So it's everything from community foundation grants all the way up to some larger federal research grants. So recently we just got awarded through the community foundation in Martinsville, we got a grant to supplement our Museums for All funding. So thanks to that, we have increased Museums for All underwriting by 50%. So currently we had Carter Bank and Trust and Hooper Furnishings. So with this additional community foundation serving Western Virginia grant, again, we increased that by 50%. So we're up to over 11,000 for the year for underwriting for that. So that's obviously a great thing, great program. Great reception at Bones and Booze, which we can talk more about. So with that, we're going to continue to promote the program, market it, working with state, local, even federal partners to communicate the benefits. And so I think with multi-channel marketing, we're able to reach families that benefit from the program. And yeah, so that's great news there. We're also later this week, we're going to meet with Harvest Foundation to look at supplementing another mission-based program, which is our need-based scholarship support. So currently we get just over 37,000 from City of Martinsville and Henry County. So we're going to look at increasing that by about 40%, hopefully through Harvest grants. So it's not creating a new program, it's supporting what we're already doing, which is great. So we don't have a timeline on that. We're gonna have the first discussion this week, so more to come on that, hopefully. As far as federal grants, we lots of activity, everything from the microscopy lab. So we finalized that grant, working with Christy on the final report for that, which is due before the end of the year. So that created, of course, the microscopy lab, which has been a pretty big success as far as bringing in students and for hands-on activities. Also, just this week signed through the foundation, signed a contract for further work for CHML. So it's a contract with these Smithsonian Cultural Rescue Initiative, and it's just over 171,000 for work over the next year. So payments will come in incrementally, and through the foundation we invoice and do all that. So that's a really good example of how the foundation can work to support mission-based programs. They're very exciting. And you'll see on the report, lots of areas are up. So memberships are up. So we've sort of increased our stewardship efforts, really promoting the festivals and other benefits. So I think families are sort of getting the message there as far as, you know, you can pay one amount to come in one time or sometimes even less to come in for the entire year. So I think the sales at the festivals, but also just, again, renewals and stewardship has really increased. So we hope to continue growing that. Of course, the endowment growth, it changes hourly or by the minute or whatever, but this is a snapshot as of September 30th. So you can see continued growth. That's a combination of new gifts, but also investment growth. So we're, of course, going to keep an eye on that. Once we get to around 1 million or reach the $1 million mark, we'll do a nice celebration for that. That's been a long time goal. So good trajectory there. Let's see, as far as exhibit, well, that's on the next part. So yeah, overall growth is up across the board. Visitation on the museum side, earned revenue, both admissions and retail, is the best first quarter we've ever had. So if you combine it, again, admissions and store, it's a record. Visitation is still growing, not quite pre-pandemic levels, but it's been a really good first quarter, and so we hope to continue that.
You know, Jonathan and I were talking on the way over with Mary Zell as well, and we know that what we see is, you know, skyrocketing growth from 2016, 17, 18, 19, and then the plummet beginning in 2020. And now we're recovering from that, which, as Ryan points out, we're not quite back at 2019 levels. But what I'd like to do is go back to the historic data and take the school visitation out of that to see how we're doing, you know, at the front desk as opposed to the school groups, because the school groups have still not come back. So I think we're going to make that some in-house homework to look at. We still have the tight relationships with the school groups and the teachers and so forth. There's no doubt there. And homeschool programming has been very strong. But, you know, and this is not just a VMNH issue. This is, you know, any organization that participates with school field trips in the community, and talking to my colleagues around the country, they're still seeing that slowness of getting back into the rhythm of going to science museum each year for these field trips. So, but I think it would be interesting to look at the historic data minus the school group visits, just to see how our current data, as far as people coming through the front door, whether it's through regular visitation, festivals, or the Museums for All program. So there you go, Ryan, you got some homework.
Great.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Okay. So upcoming events, programs, and initiatives.
Well, I'm happy to point out a few big ones. Recently, of course, we had Bones and Booze. So you all got hopefully the email about that. We had right around 2,600 visitors. It was a 6-hour period, but realistically, it was more of a 4 or 5 hour period. The last hour is generally kind of slow as far as people coming in. But great event, great Museums for All turnout. So close to 1,000 of those visitors were Museums for All families. And again, they're very appreciative. Just, you know, being at the front desk, talking to folks is very beneficial. And I would encourage anyone, if you ever get a chance to attend one of the festivals, definitely hang out up front for a little while and just hear the feedback. It's really good to hear. It's really inspirational. As far as next upcoming, we've got our, of course, Dinosaur Discoveries exhibit is open now through January. I think January 20th is the closing date. So between January 20th and February 10th, it'll be a combination of takedown and setup for our next exhibit, which will hold a public opening on February 10th. So that's going to be a Saturday, February 10th, which of course is the day of the board meeting, it should be really fun to kind of see that big crowd. And it's going to be a festival format, but we're calling it a celebration of opening day of the exhibit. So it's not going to be called a festival, but it'll have some of the similar elements, education activities, science tables, all the kind of great things from festivals. So again, that's February 10th. That's the Masters of the Night exhibit, and that'll be open all throughout 2024 through January 2025. And at that point, we'll open our next exhibit, which is to be determined. Following the February 10th opening, our next big festival is Reptile Festival. So that's going to be in April, of course, followed by further festivals throughout 2024.
Just one of the big initiatives coming up too is the Education Pavilion that's underway. So something to keep an eye on is the support coming from the foundation to the museum. The total project $718,000. Approximately half of that will be coming through funds from the foundation side, as well as some special fund carryover from the previous year. There were some funds that are already transferred that are already in the mix, and then of course the gifts that are already on the foundation side and earmarked to support the program and installation of the pavilion.
It'll be neat seeing a lot of these stuff finally come into seeing it. You're like,
Absolutely.
when you start out on the board, you're like, you see this, you're like, yeah, and then it's like, okay, we gotta wait a little while. And it's like, it's like, oh. So yes, definitely looking forward to those. We've been talking about that for a long time.
We've had the money for a long time.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing, So
Yes.
is what it is.
Or if you don't mind, I was going to point out the last.
Yes.
Folks, on the last page 7 of the advancement report, there is now page 7. It's an additional page. It was brought up at the last trustee meeting, so I want to highlight it. I think it was Sherry that asked about not only visitor distribution by zip code, but also donor distribution. So we did look at that, pulled it together. This is kind of a snapshot of both number of gifts geographically, but also number of dollars. And there are always outliers. And so in this case, the Harvest Foundation grant for $115,000 is an outlier. But without that, basically what we see is most donations come in locally from local donors, while most dollars come in from outside the area. And basically the reason for that is most donations locally are memberships, annual fund gifts, very generous gifts. But what we see is most of the larger grants come from outside the area. So federal grants are coming from DC or whatever offices. So statewide, we're seeing more of the larger gifts. So that's kind of the breakdown. It's not a huge surprise. We kind of knew that, but it was good to look at the actual data. So that's what you see there.
Yeah, I love the graphs. I love seeing page 6 and 7. The 7's new, but the 6, I really like seeing where everything's coming from across the state and this and that. And you see 10% as far as up north central Virginia is really nice. So I like seeing those.
And the fact that down in the bottom center where we see, about half of our visitation roughly kind of coming relatively nearby, which we never had before, and that's the Museums for All. Once we really enacted a market of Museums for All, providing that free programming for the neighborhood, essentially, it really increased our outreach right into our backyard that we were missing for so many years.
Yeah, that's a great stats and stuff to look at. So, all right. So, any questions, comments, recommendations?
I just want to point out one thing for Cord, Ann, and Nathan. The Strategic Planning Committee got together a couple weeks ago, fairly recently. And I think this is an opportunity to kind of meld together the work of 2 committees. And I think you'll hear more about this from Mark Buss at the next meeting in Stanton. And one of the things is that we have to come up with a new strategic plan by 2025. And so Mark has a timeline set up for that plan, but strategic plans, of course, also involve finances, not necessarily in producing the strategic plan, but it's going to guide how we're going to apply our resources So that way we are meeting both mission and code and lining up budget, mission, and code together. So you'll hear more about that. So just keep in mind that he would like us, and when I say us, the Strategic Planning Committee and also the Executive Committee, to plan a retreat for strategic planning overall with the entire board at the August 2024 board meeting. So you may remember, I think all of you were at the strategic retreat in Harrisonburg, but I can't remember the year, 22?
22.
Okay, yeah, so we'll look at August 2024, and we'll pick a location, try to find something centralized for everyone, and that would be a great opportunity to talk about strategic initiatives and how we apply our financial resources, either through appropriation or grants or memberships or whatever we get towards meeting the goals developed. So something for everyone to keep in mind.
Sounds great. I'll go ahead and get it on the calendar.
I have a quick comment. I was talking to Ryan earlier today, and looking at the graphs on page 7, and I would just like to see somehow, and I can talk to Mark about this, that we try to figure out some businesses in Danville to work with to get the number of donations up in the Danville area, because my logic is that we don't have anything like that here in Danville. You've got Museum of Natural History, you've got Piedmont Arts, you got all these really nice things in Martinsville that we don't have here. So if we don't have it here, there should be no reason why we're not getting businesses in Danville to work with us here in Martinsville to up that, because either they don't know or they're just not being approached. So maybe it's just a matter of finding some businesses and going, hey, you know, we got this, this, and this in Martinsville. Why are y'all not helping out a little better? You know, I think we could grow our circulation in Danville coming to the museum itself there.
You have to find something that they would value that they can't get otherwise. I mean, you know, a visit to us versus Danville Science Center. I mean, the one is not better than the other. They're just two different experiences altogether, right? So we know that we offer up things that are different, but I think it's worth putting some time into thinking about what do we offer that's of value. And, you know, we hear some of our foundation board members talking about the value proposition. Maybe we have to come up with a specific value proposition for Danville, because it's one of our closer metropolitan area. Well, it's our closest metropolitan area, for one, and two, it's very close by, a half hour or so drive.
And I mean, they tell you in any economics class that people will spend the money to drive somewhere if they're getting a benefit out of it. Well, if you've got museums for all, so I think people in Danville would drive over there to see what we got if they know I can spend a day once a month or whatever, and it's not going to cost me nothing but gas money to get over there, pack a lunch, whatever. So I think we're missing an opportunity to hit some of these businesses in Danville, especially with the various foundations here and Caesars coming in and stuff. So there's the Danville starting to get a little bit more money recently. So I think they said that we brought in $112 million this past year in tourist revenue.
It's not bad.
So Danville, so I think, okay, so if Danville doesn't have to offer what we've got in Martinsville, somehow we got to bring them to us then. So just something to think about.
Cool.
So any other questions, comments, recommendations from anyone?
Well, kind of on that point, I think, you know, one of the things that you can talk to is whoever the local economic development director is for Danville. Because what you should be selling is Danville and Martinsville are in the same, you know, MSA. So as you recruit businesses, are you looking at our museum as one of the things that would be a plus. The best way I can put it is businesses look for amenities in areas where they're thinking of relocating. So the first question to economic development, are you listing this as one of your amenities? So kind of get on their radar. And once on their radar, then you can parlay that into, hey, look, Danville's benefiting from having this museum, as part of your all's economic development activities. And that resonates with businesses.
Yeah, I like that, Ann. Cord, do you know the ED director? You said Calvin Perry?
Kelvin Perry, he's on our board here too.
Oh, okay, good.
So that's a quick in.
Yeah.
That's definitely a quick in. And then I noticed last month, I believe it was last month, I sent Ryan just an impromptu email. The new branding of SOSI is here now, and it's free for anyone to use it. And you can get on and we can put our next festival on there, branded through the museum, the whole 9 yards, and it'll go out to, I think they said the last count was 1.4 million people will see it or something. And they've got I don't know if I'm saying this right. I believe they said they had a 14% click rate for the email. 14% of all their stuff is being opened. So I don't know if that's worth it to us to start putting stuff on there or not. But the neat thing is that when you sign up for it, you have total control of it. Nobody else can go in there and edit it, do anything with it. You have your own passwords, and you can go straight onto their thing and put out whatever you want to put out. And you don't have to worry about somebody changing it up on or doing something, but it's another way of getting to people that we may not get to also, as far as free advertising. I mean, that's something that's, you gotta like the word free. So I think that's another thing. I was just at the meeting at the Institute. We had Caesars, the Ag Center, VIR was there, all these big companies, and it's totally format now to where you can just showcase your business, update everything, send out a calendar of events. They'll put you on everything. So, and what they're looking at trying to do now is you can advertise and you can put all your stuff on there. But what they're trying to do is once they get enough going, they're going to start putting out a monthly calendar of events so people can look, okay, every Saturday, all this is going on. So as opposed to, you might look at that and go, oh, we've got an event going on this day, but so does bang, 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 bang. Do we want to compete against that? So it's just another way of figuring out what else is going on out there to help you out. But I just thought it was something neat. I just think that Danville's untapped for us. We should be in the double digits at least. I mean, since we're so close in proximity.
And real quick, Cord, I'm drawing a blank on the head of the Chamber of Commerce in Danville.
I am not for sure because it used to be Alexis Earnhardt. She's gone now, and I don't know who replaced her. I
where
haven't met
did Alexis go?
She actually is at UVA now, I believe, or somewhere. I believe it's UVA.
Yeah, because she and I were in the Lead Virginia class together. So
I had her for Leadership Southside, so yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can't remember. She sent me an email saying that she was leaving and a replacement would be blah, but I can't remember. But that's another kind of broad group to maybe get in front of and talk about regionalism. I mean, that's basically what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just think somehow, whether it's a partnership or just some way of getting more people from here to Martinsville, I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if no one else has any questions, comments, or recommendations, we can adjourn.
Good.
This is Nathan. This is unrelated. I know I can find this in my email somewhere. What time is everything getting kicked off this weekend up in Stanton?
Nathan, the executive committee is in the Education Center of Frontier Culture Museum at 3:30. And we then are planning to meet at the Heritage in Waynesboro at 5:30 for dinner. And then Saturday morning, we have 9 o'clock committees, education, research, and collections, followed by the 10 o'clock full. Well, I think I have it down as 10:30 full board meeting.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Joe.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Hey, and just one last request, and I hate to keep asking Mary Zell for things, but could we, at our board meeting, could we have a list of the 2024 board meeting dates and locations? And, which one's virtual? I'm assuming they're all going to be at the museum next year. I don't know.
What we'll do, we have that calendar ready, and we'll share that. And I can request, the executive committee to choose in advance which ones are going to be virtual. I think they already have in mind which ones would be because of past attendance and so forth. But we can make that official at the executive committee meeting on Friday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Need just to do some 2024 planning.
Yep. It's going to be here before we know it.
Don't say that.
Yes. All right, cool.
All right. Well, I guess we are adjourned.
Look forward to seeing you both on the weekend. And Zach, thank you for handling the technology as always.
Yep.
You're welcome. It's good seeing everybody.